Hey guys, this is Jay Caldor with Jay Unboxing here, giving you my personal prediction for Louis Ritson versus Jeremias Ponce. And remember, this is just my take. Yours, of course, can be left down in the comments. I'd love to hear them all. A little bit of fight info here for you. This is Ritson versus Ponce, which is taking place at the arena in Newcastle, England. It'll be airing live on DAZN here in the States. It is a junior welterweight clash with no title on the line, but it does have some sort of world-level implications. It's a very interesting fight, actually. It's a clash between two pretty evenly matched fighters looking to move on to that world level, as mentioned. And both have their areas of strength, of course, but certainly have their weak points as well, which makes for a very interesting breakdown of who really can make this their fight and how this fight might go. So, with that said, let's get into it. Starting off with the slight favorite in Ritson, we'll talk about what he needs to do to win here first, in my opinion. And I think the first thing is he needs to keep his punches close and tight. Ponce has some reach on him and can let his hands sort of loop a little bit and roam a little more when he throws those punches, and certainly more than should be the case, and Ritson should take advantage of that by keeping his shots shorter and straighter. This allows for him to score first and most often and eventually start pushing his man back, which would suggest he'll have some success as the fight wears on. What I also would like to see Ritson do is use that jab to get inside the range of Ponce. And of course, as we're talking about those kind of shorter shots, that only really pays dividends if you're on the inside. Those shorter shots will work best for Ritson if he's able to get inside the distance and stay there. At range, he's likely to get caught on the end of Ponce's punches, and that's obviously not the plan he has. So, of course, instead, jab your way and blind your man, push him back even, and then Ritson can move in and start working shots both up and downstairs, especially, again, when you have those tall fighters or those lankier fighters, not so thick fighters. When you do punch on the inside, it's a great way to really kind of start cracking at those ribs and wear your man down. Finally, for Ritson, I would say he has a really good opportunity to land the overhand right. The overhand right can find a home. It's another shot that might pay off for Ritson too, especially as he's trying to come in. He can kind of, it can be thrown off the back of that jab, especially when mixed in with straight rights. If he's not sure which of those two you're throwing, he might be blocking for that straight right, which gets there a little bit faster. The overhand right gets there, it takes a little longer, and as a result of that, might come over the top of his guard dropping if he can time it correctly. It can potentially confuse Ponce and find a home. And this is especially possible because Ponce has a tendency to keep tall when punching and exchanging. Now, for the aforementioned Ponce to win, I think we should start with this. He cannot get caught too far out. Ponce can be crude at times. He has a decent jab and some solid power, so he's gotten away with it at lower levels. However, as he moves on, he has to be more disciplined. At times, Ponce can have his upper body drift too far over his lead foot. And a way to combat that is by stepping in with the jab as opposed to just letting it throw out there. This will, if you're doing it at the same time, make sure that you're keeping your feet underneath you and a little more balanced, and you're not getting too far off that center line. Especially if you make sure to keep your combinations shorter and don't try to overcommit too often to too many hard shots. And what would also potentially help Ponce is to keep the fight at his preferred distance. The jab can help there as well. Again, jabbing, jabbing, jabbing. It's going to sound like I'm saying that a lot for him, but it's ultimately going to be one of his major keys. Especially if you double him up, that's all the better. This allows for you to keep your feet effectively. Keep them underneath you so that you can, ensure that Ritson's trying to come in and try to find that range, but is being met with that jab. That's good for Ponce, obviously, because first, he can frustrate Louis and potentially walk him into a shot, and secondly, you can set up your right hand in a more measured way as opposed to just throwing it out there. Finally, the left hook can line up that right hand as well. Another way to line that shot up, again, as mentioned, is the good old-fashioned left hook. Again, this is a balance and center of mass issue for Ponce, so throwing a left hook can do well to push him onto the side, into the foot that he needs to be to set that right hand up to begin with. In other words, it forces a natural combination out of him, not something he has to force, not something that should keep him stretched or exposed. And that keeps him scoring, but also in a better position to avoid a much more dangerous return. Now, my pick here, this is a close one for sure. Ritson has not shown up in some of his tougher tests or has really fallen short in many cases, and so it's difficult to rely upon him. At the same time, if I were to compare him versus Ponce, I would say on paper he's probably the more complete fighter and probably the fighter that I would pick, probably edging a close one. So while there is part of me that thinks Ponce might have enough power to land something weird or awkward at some point, maybe mid in the fight and stop Ritson, I'm going to go with my head. And my head says that Ritson might have some rather bad moments, might even get caught a little more than he'd like to, maybe even dropped, but ultimately he makes the fight ugly down the stretch, wins the battle on the inside just due to more compact shots, and wins a split or majority decision. Now, again, as I mentioned, the nature of this fight is that it's close, and the odds do seem to sort of reflect that as well. The betting odds for this fight has Ritson as a decent favorite at a minus 250, with Ponce at a plus 190. Now, of course, you're not finding much value in a Ritson bet, and I wasn't able to find much of a bet as regards to an over-under, which again might be where the real money is here. But if you do expect a minor upset from Ponce, which again, not calling it that, obviously. My prediction is Ritson wins a close decision, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion, just based on his awkward style and Ritson's history of, again, coming up a little bit short in those primary moments. It's not the worst bet in the world to make if you really have no dog in this fight, so to speak. In any event, my prediction record going into the weekend is 15-5-2 with 6 exact. And let me know what you guys think. Who do you have down in the comments? What have you made of this fight? It's an interesting one. What are your predictions? Any bets you got going on? So on and so forth. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow at jcalderon_JOB. And you can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out junboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.